By the end of episode 3, we had seen that Kimmer had become suspect number 1 because she had told Charles that she didn't have the handkerchief that was gifted by Ben to everybody. Ben held onto the handkerchief of the person who had pushed him down the shaft, and Charles and Mabel had come to the conclusion that whoever the killer was wouldn't have the handkerchief with their possession. Mabel knew that she would have to talk to Kimmer, see if there were any inconsistencies, and try to decipher if she had a strong alibi or not. So, let's find out what happened in Only Murders in the Building episode 4, and if Mabel is able to come any closer to exposing the identity of the killer. Did Kimmer kill Ben Glenroy? Kimmer's casual admission to Charles that she didn't have the handkerchief gave the impression that either she didn't feel guilty about Ben Glenroy's death and had nothing to do with it, or that she had such a solid alibi that she was confident no one would be able to find any evidence to prove her guilt. In an effort to avoid giving Kimmer the impression that they were looking into her, Charles and Mabel went to speak with her. Along on the ride was Oliver, who pestered Mabel and tried to convince her that Kimmer wasn't the murderer. Oliver was keen to include Kimmer in the performance because she could sing fairly well. Kimmer told Mabel that, firstly, she didn't have an affair with Ben, contrary to what others believed, and she was only in touch with him for professional reasons. Kimmer wanted Ben to endorse her line of beauty products. Ben Glenroy, after he came back from the dead the first time, apologized to Kimmer for making things messy, and seeing the way he said it, everybody assumed that she was having an affair with Kimmer, and something might have happened between them. Ben, even after promising Kimmer, did not endorse her products, and that made her lose her temper. Kimmer also revealed to Mabel in Only Murders in the Building episode 4 that she had sold the handkerchief that Ben had given her on eBay. Though it was never explicitly stated, we believed that it could be possible that the real killer bought it, knowing that it could prove detrimental for his case if someone came to know that he didn't have it. In addition, Kimmer shared with Mabel that, despite her personal and professional disagreements, she thought Ben Glenroy was a good man who occasionally was way too harsh on himself. Ben had a constant sense of needing to prove his value and a very insecure mindset, in which he constantly worried about being replaced by a better candidate. Prior to the performance night, according to Kimmer, he was quite apprehensive, and his anxiety increased when he noticed that he had a red mark on his face. Ben dialed a number, and the person who answered made sure the red mark was covered up with makeup. Mabel asked Kimmer if she had seen who this person was, but the latter didn't know anything about it. What happened between Charles and Joy? Charles had the hardest time performing his song, and every time he sang, he went into this subconscious state where he didn't know what he was doing. It was almost as if he blanked out, did some bizarre things, and then snapped out of that state, and didn't remember a thing he had said or done. Charles was stressed, and he didn't know how he should tackle the situation. Moreover, Joy, the hair and makeup artist, had moved in with Charles and started interfering in every aspect of his life. Charles loved the women, but he was not used to someone poking their nose into everything he did. He knew that Joy's actions were coming from a place of genuine affection and care, but still he was not able to get accustomed to it, and neither was he able to tell her the issues that he was having. In addition, his performance anxiety had made matters worse. When preparing an omelet once, he managed to complete the process without dozing off. Charles learned he could sing the entire song without any issues if he kept his thoughts occupied and did something else. Charles tried that on stage, mimicking the full process of creating an omelet, which looked incredibly strange, but allowed him to speak his lines without dozing off. Oliver told Charles that he couldn't do it that way, and that he would need to find another way to stage the scene, because he didn't comprehend what he was doing. In Only Murders in the Building episode 4, Mabel, Oliver, and Charles saw that someone had written something obscene on the mirror in Ben's guest room. The person had used lipstick, and all three of them agreed that whoever the lipstick belonged to could possibly be the killer. Oliver had realized one thing. Joy's presence had a role to play in whatever problems Charles was facing during the performance. He had known Charles for many years, and never had it happen that the man became so nervous and did such bizarre things. Oliver had a conversation with Charles and told him that he was not ready for commitment, and was having issues that were impacting him so adversely that he should inform Joy about them, and try to reach a solution. Charles had decided to talk to Joy, but just before initiating the conversation, he once again went into that hallucinatory space, and when he came to his senses, he was down on one knee and holding a ring in his hand. Charles accidentally proposed to Joy, and she gladly accepted the offer, as she had been waiting for it for a long time. Just then, when all this was happening, Oliver and Mabel also walked in, and they saw whatever had happened. In the last moments of Only Murders in the Building episode 4, Joy claimed ownership of the lipstick she saw in Mabel's hand. Mabel, Oliver, and Charles were all in a state of complete amazement as they stood there. Despite the surprising revelation, we think Joy was innocent of the crime. If she had been, she undoubtedly wouldn't have claimed ownership of the lipstick. It was most likely stolen from her by someone else, who then scrawled those remarks on Ben's mirror. We will see if Joy was innocent or not in the next episodes, and it will be interesting to watch what Mabel decides to do about the offer made to her by Cinda Canning.